Hey guys, welcome to Real Canadian Condo Disputes, where the condo drama gets real. Condo boards, condo rules, and real owner battles from across Canada. If you live in a condo, or you might one day, you need to hear these stories. Let's jump in.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into a really fascinating story that gets right to the heart of what it means to live in a community. It's a story about rules, about fairness, and, well, what happens when a board decides to make an exception for just one person. Let's get right into it. So, this is the big question, right? Picture this. You live in a condo, and a new safety rule gets passed that affects every single resident. But then you find out your neighbor somehow got a special pass to just ignore it. How would that make you feel? Is that even fair? Is it legal? Let's unpack this whole situation. Okay, so here's the setup. A condo corporation, worried about safety, lays down a strict new rule. It bans all unlicensed e-vehicles, like e-bikes and scooters, from being stored or charged anywhere inside the building. But then, it quietly gives a limited legacy exemption to one single owner. And that's where things start to get really messy. And you can see the problem right here. On the one hand, you have the rule. It's for everyone. It says no unlicensed e-vehicles inside. Simple. But on the other hand, you have this special deal. An exemption for one owner, letting them keep their e-bike in the bike room. The contradiction is just staring you right in the face. And this is our first big problem. Get this. The rule that the board wrote and sent out to everybody, there's not a single word in there about grandfathering or legacy rights. So they're basically inventing a special status for this owner that doesn't even exist in the document they're supposed to be enforcing. So the hole just gets deeper, because this special exemption doesn't just make up a new category, it flat out breaks the rules that are already written down. Let's look at how it directly contradicts their own rulebook. Okay, so check out the exact wording from Section 2.1 of the rule. It is crystal clear. It lists all the places you can't keep these things, and what's on that list? Spelled out plain as day? The bike room. I mean, you can't get any clearer than that. So there you have it. The board's special deal allows the e-bike to be kept in the exact room that the rule says is off limits. It's a direct, undeniable violation of their own policy. This is our second major problem. But wait, there's more. Let's look at another part of the rule, Section 2.3. This part says you cannot charge the battery for one of these vehicles anywhere at the property. The language here is absolute, no wiggle room. And here's contradiction number 3. The board told this one owner, sure, you can charge the battery in your unit. This goes completely against the rule's total ban on charging. They are literally overriding a key safety provision just for one person. So, we've seen how the exemption shatters the board's own rulebook. Now let's kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the serious legal problems this creates under the Condominium Act. This brings us to a really important legal idea called selective enforcement. It's exactly what it sounds like, applying a rule to some people but giving others a pass. Think of a referee who only calls fouls on one team. It's just not fair, and you know what? The courts consistently agree. They say it's unreasonable and that a board's duty is to enforce the rules fairly for everybody. And this is why it really matters. When a board plays favorites, it's not just a matter of being unfair. They are basically inviting a lawsuit. They're opening up the whole condo corporation to huge legal risks, like being sued for breaching their duties or facing claims of discrimination. And that is our fourth major problem, creating a massive legal liability. Now here's something that's so crucial to understand. In the eyes of the law, when you create an exception like this, you aren't just bending the rule, you are changing the rule. You've effectively amended it. And the Condominium Act has a very specific, and mandatory process for changing a rule. It's designed to be totally transparent. You have to send a formal notice to all the owners, tell them when the change is going to happen, and give them a chance to call a meeting about it. So you think the board did any of that? Nope, not a single step. They just skipped the entire legal process. And that makes their secret amendment totally invalid. And that's our fifth and final key problem here. They acted completely outside of their legal authority. Okay, let's just hit pause for a second. We've talked about all these contradictions and legal procedures, but let's not forget why this rule was even created in the first place. At the end of the day, this whole thing comes down to two words: fire safety. That was the whole motivation, the entire reason this rule exists at all. We're talking about the risk from those lithium-ion batteries. Yeah, this wasn't some random rule they just made up.
It came from actual warnings from the Toronto Fire Department about how dangerous these battery fires can be. So when the board creates an exemption, they're not just being inconsistent. They are poking a hole in the very safety net they put up to protect everyone in the building.
So where does all this leave us? Well, when you start to add up all these problems, the board's decision to grant this one exemption, well, it looks like it's built on a house of cards.
All right, let's just quickly recap the 5 main ways this whole thing fails. First, they just made up a legacy owner status that doesn't exist. Second, the exemption directly breaks the rule about storage in the bike room. Third, it breaks the absolute ban on charging. Fourth, it opens them up to massive legal risks for selective enforcement. And fifth, the board completely ignored the legal process for actually changing a rule. It's a mess, and it totally undermines the safety of the residents.
Ultimately, this story isn't really about one e-bike in one building. It's about something much bigger. It's about the fundamental duty to govern fairly. Because when you live in a community, the rules have to apply to everyone, equally. If they don't, the trust that holds everything together just starts to fall apart.
And that leaves us with this final, really tough question. The board probably thought they were being fair or reasonable to this one owner. But at what point does that one act of fairness cross a line and become deeply unfair to everyone else who has to follow the rules and live with the risks? It's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching Real Canadian Condo Disputes. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and share your own condo experience in the comments.